In this session, we will talk about how to use AI for webinars, how to create your customized sales presentation in under 60 minutes. I'm here with the world-leading webinar expert and my good friend, Jon Schumacher. He specializes in webinars and online events that convert, and he has worked with over 300 clients across 30 plus industries and has more than 1,000 students who have gone through his training programs. And just recently, I've seen some really cool stuff he's been working on when it comes to AI and webinars. And we're going to demonstrate some really amazing things, how you can actually do this a lot faster and easier, because webinar has been pretty daunting to put together. I know I've put together many webinars in my days, and they can take a long time. And I know the promise is like under 60 minutes, but I think Jon usually delivers what he talks about. So I'm really excited for this one. So warm welcome, Jon.
All right, Navid, good to see you again. Thank you for having me. Excited to share some ideas and value with everyone here around how to create webinars, masterclasses, workshops, sales presentations, using AI as your assistant to help you get there more efficiently. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's good you mentioned as an assistant. It doesn't replace you as a human. I always talk about that a lot in these sessions I do with different experts and things like that. I'm a big proponent of AI. I'm using it a lot in my business, but it doesn't replace kind of my creativity and things like that. I think it's like
Yeah.
a helpful tool, but I'm sure we get into a lot of this. But tell me a little bit about kind of your way into the world of AI. You have been doing webinars for, the 10 plus years, right? You've been
Right.
like pretty much as long as I've been doing summits, you've been doing webinars, which is it's a virtual event essentially. So tell me a little bit about that, and I guess why someone should consider, doing webinars too.
Yeah. So again, as you mentioned, I've been doing webinars now for over a decade. I've worked with a lot of different clients and industries and all that kind of stuff. Rediscovered AI last November, I believe it was. I was listening to my favorite podcast, the All In podcast, and the guys mentioned this tool called ChatGPT that was coming out, and I'd used other tools in the past, but there was something about what they said that made me want to take another look. So I signed up for an account. I started playing with it. Once again, it wasn't producing the kind of results that I did, but I knew that now the time is the time to really learn this stuff. And so I set out on this mission to really figure it out and went down the rabbit hole of like creating prompts and prompt engineering and like a deeper dive into the world of AI and how you can use it as, again, your assistant, not your replacement, to create customizable on-brand webinars for your business. Because that's the key. You don't want some generic outline or script. You need something that makes sense for your personality, for your business, for your offer, for all of your things in order to make this really work for you. And so after a lot of hours and many dollars trying to figure this stuff out, I've put together what I call AI powered frameworks, which are really a series of instructional frameworks coupled with the AI so that you know how to prompt it, how to judge what it gives you, and what to do with what it gives you. And those are the three things that you have to have in place if you want to do customizable presentations that make sense for you, right? And so that's kind of how I got back into the world of AI this past year. And then you asked about why do webinars, Navid? Is that kind of another
Yeah,
follow-up
like
question?
because as I've alluded to, like a lot of creators, they love to create the free content, right? And a webinar is a form of
Yeah.
free content, but it's leading to a sale for your course, for a digital product, whatever. And
Hmm.
it can be a coaching program, can be higher ticket. But I see a lot of creators, especially like YouTubers, maybe some podcasters and things like that. They're not really
Yeah.
doing webinars all that much, like to sell anything. I mean, maybe they are promoting something in their newsletter, but usually it's not enough, right? It's like just a link here and there. It's not like a
Yeah.
sponsorship, right? You're getting the money. Like for a course, you need to put it in front of people. So why should
Yeah.
someone like that kind of get it?
Yeah.
Why should they do it? Isn't it too salesy? I mean, some people might say it's too salesy to do it. And maybe they have been turned off by some webinars, by some marketers who just promote too much. Maybe
Yeah.
that's why they don't do it. So I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
curious to hear your opinion on this.
Yeah, a webinar is just a platform, right? So, I mean, as far as the whole, I'm worried about being salesy thing, part of that is just a fear to get over. Call it making full and complete offers. You don't need to be the 1990s pitch person, and there's more, right? And like continue to kind of like promote that way to use webinars. So that's one piece there. For many creators like YouTubers, podcasters, you're creating a lot of content, right? You're creating a lot of materials to build an audience, to build trust with that audience. there's a good chance that that audience would want to learn more from you in a deeper way, right? And many YouTubers do have online programs, online courses that they sell. Maybe they put a link in the description or whatever that is. But, if you have a bit of an audience, nothing beats putting together what I would call a conversion event, right? Which is like a webinar, a master class, a workshop, something that shares the right type of content that both delights your audience while still pointing them to that new opportunity, which is to work with you, to buy your program and those kind of things, right? And so, if you want to double your business, if you're interested in making more revenue, make more offers. And conversion events like a webinar is one of the most efficient ways to put together a sales message, put together an offer, and test that with your audience to get real-time feedback, to bring in an influx of buyers and sales and all those kind of things. So webinars are very much, the way I do them, a sales webinar, you can demonstrate your expertise. You can still delight your audience. We want everything we do to be valuable, right? We don't want to be not valuable in anything we do, but it still needs to be done in a way that is strategically structured to lead them to the new opportunity, which is working with you. And so if you do it right, again, you'll continue to give more value, but you'll bring in a whole lot more sales than you will if you just sort of passively drop a link in a YouTube video or a newsletter. So, let's say you host, 5 to 8 webinars a year to your audience. You have an intentionality to that marketing campaign, and you can do it in a way that doesn't turn people off and will, in many cases, for a lot of businesses, more than double their business if they'll just have a more assertive plan for promotion, for doing these conversion events. So I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah,
Hopefully
absolutely. I
so.
mean, no, that's a good, leads into the next thing, right? So how was it before AI? Because with AI, you can do things. I mean, I know for myself, like I can create so much more content or do things a lot easier and faster with the help of AI as an assistant, right? So how is
Right.
it for webinars? So how long did it take you before you got into AI to create it? I think that sets the stage for what we are going to talk about today to kind of showcase a little bit the before. What went into it before, and is it so much easier today with the help of
Yeah.
AI?
Yeah. No, I mean, look, like for me, I've been doing it a while. So, I mean, I can fairly efficiently put together a webinar. It still takes weeks at times for me to put together a full blown webinar campaign. For many people listening to this, maybe you aren't as experienced with that, which is probably the majority. A lot of times they just never get it done, right? The idea of like how to structure it, what to say, what to teach so you don't give away too much or whatever, or turn people off and still make an offer. A lot of people have told me, students that've worked through my program, that they've wanted to put together a webinar for their company or for their brand, but they just weren't able to get it done, right? Like they were just spinning their wheels too much. They were confused on how to structure it, how to put it together, and those kind of things. So, it can, using AI the right way as your assistant, not your replacement. I mean, I've literally had students go from not being able to get it done to literally getting their webinar created in a single day, right? Like sitting down, going through the process, creating the language that they're going to use to deliver the message and getting it done literally within a day. I've had, a couple students get 2 webinars done in a week. I mean,
Yep,
there's always exceptions. Of course, you need to be
of course.
clear on kind of what you want to say or who you're marketing to still, right? Like some people are more clear than others on that, but
Hmm.
it speeds it up tremendously, right? I mean, it'll
Of
take the
course.
guesswork out of doing it, the staring at the blank screen, kind of wondering what
Hmm.
to say, that kind of thing goes away when you have an AI tool that's really fantastic at giving you ideas. I mean, AI
Yeah.
is really, really good at helping you come up with headline ideas for your webinar,
Mhm.
bonuses that you could offer around your core offer, naming ideas for the different concepts that you're sharing, or even teaching ideas as well. So
Yep.
I use it for everything I do now because while I'm better than AI by itself at creating this stuff, I'm better with AI than I am without it now because it's
I
just
love
that
this.
helpful.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
that's
that
awesome.
helpful.
And yeah, John,
Yeah.
you said like in the title was maybe to some people sounds like it's in under 60 minutes. What do you get done usually? Because that's not the full campaign. Like there's a lot of things that goes into a webinar campaign. When you talk
Yeah.
about the under 60 minutes, I think you're talking about the presentation itself, right? So
Right.
basically getting that done. There's of course emails and other things that goes done, which AI can help with, like your follow-up campaign and all this. That's probably where most of the sales come in usually. Like you have sales during the webinar, But if you don't have any follow-up, you're gonna miss out on a lot of sales. So
Yeah.
you need a lot of pieces in order to do an effective webinar campaign. So I guess if you do all that in a week, that's fantastic with AI. But the presentation is that's kind of what you're talking about when you're saying like this, you can get done pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can get a webinar written in an hour using my tool.
Yeah,
The average of my I had 63 people go through a cohort in the spring. The average was about 2.5 hours for the first time through, because I have videos to watch and
yeah,
instructions to read. So they get the context of what they're building. But
yeah.
once you understand what you're building and you can just have the right prompts and the right structure together, you could easily write the script or the language that you're going to use to deliver your presentation. And you can get a
Okay,
draft done in an hour easily. And you'll
that's
probably tweak it, but
yeah, yeah, but
yeah.
that's fantastic. So what do you start with? Because first you need like, I guess a topic for your webinar. I mean, it's one of this, or is there some steps before that people need to think about? I mean, their niche, their
Well,
audience, things like that, I guess. But
right. Well, it starts with your offer, right? I mean, where do
yeah,
you want to take people? We want to begin
of
with the
course.
end in mind, right? So what are
Yeah.
you going to sell? What's the goal of your webinar? That's like the first kind of piece. What's the promise of your course? Who would be the ideal buyer? You need to identify those things before you start putting together headlines or marketing messages. Obviously, it starts with who you're marketing to and what problem you're solving for them and how, right? Like, so there's some basics to get clear on, and if you're clear on those things, then the rest of it can be put together fairly efficiently. People
Okay.
that it usually takes a little longer with, they need a little more coaching or finagling around,
Mhm.
like, okay, who's my
Oh,
ideal buyers? What pains am I solving or problems? How do I do that? Like those kind of basics are
maybe
still
they are
important.
newer to it, right? Maybe they don't have
Right.
like their offer. I mean, you can also use. I remember in my days, I've used webinars to pre-sell and offer a lot of times. But yeah, you need to be clear on what you are going to offer. You need to still have something in
Right.
mind, because otherwise you're
Right.
just coming on there and asking people. So
Right.
maybe you need to survey your audience or get some information from them before, so you're not guessing there to just spend all this time creating it. But I do think offering something live if it's the first time you're doing it, or like a mix between the two. So you don't need to create the entire program if you don't know if you're gonna get sales. And a webinar is a great way to actually validate
Yeah.
that you are going to get
Right.
sales for that thing you wanna offer. So I do think that
Definitely.
is a good way to do it as well.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a great way to live launch ideas, test ideas more efficiently.
Mhm.
Don't go for perfect your first time out, like get
Yeah.
your offer together, get a basic marketing message together and get it out there fast and efficient into
Mhm.
the market. And that's
Yep.
going to be your best bet. But,
And what
um,
price point do you think is the most effective? Like you said, start with the end in mind. We do the same. Like for virtual summits, I start with the offer because it's much easier to then think about kind of who's gonna be the speakers, what's gonna be in this. I start always like that to kind of work myself back. Like when I start with the offers and different things I wanna provide, it's just easier to like market the summit and everything we are doing. So it's the same for webinars, I guess. So what kind of price point would you say as well works the best? Or you can do any price point, or is like higher price point better? What have you seen for to
yeah,
make it
it depends on
worthwhile?
your goal for the webinar. I categorize sales webinars in two categories. One is direct selling, one is lead gen. So
Mm,
direct selling is, hey, here's my thing, here's the offer, go to this page and buy it.
yeah.
Right. So in many markets, you're looking at like online courses or software or things like that, usually under $2,000 to colder audiences. Like I sell it right at that $2,000 price point
Okay.
during promotions and stuff like that when I do direct selling. Depends a little bit on your market, but like $500 to $2,000 is a pretty good range for like courses and stuff like that. Of course, software can be more variable than that. And
Okay.
then lead gen is like, okay, I'm going to warm people up. I'm going to persuade them with this webinar. And then at
Um,
the end of that, the call to action, the first thing you're quote unquote selling is that initial conversation with you or your team, right? And that might be for you if you're selling coaching or financial services or book publishing services, where a higher amount of trust and a higher price point are involved. You can use your webinar to generate leads to book calls for your team or your calendar and those kind of
yeah,
things.
yeah,
So those are kind of your two. So you need to kind of
yeah.
know where you want to lead people, because that will affect your call to action. That'll affect some of the elements that make up your presentation.
No, it's also like if you're gonna do any paid traffic and things like that, it's a little bit
Yeah.
easier. And if you have a very low priced offer, it's gonna be maybe harder. But of course, that depends on the market as well. Like, yeah, if you're selling to in certain markets, maybe a higher price point works. But you have worked pretty much in every industry. I worked with so many people, so I'm sure
A
you've
lot of
seen
them.
kind of what prices works in different markets. But would you say in most markets you can have like higher pricing or premium to sell on webinars, or depends kind of the audience?
Well, it depends on the audience. Like in B2B, like, business to business or business to solopreneur, let's say. Yeah, I mean, selling $500 to $2,000
Yeah,
courses is pretty standard
right.
and pretty accepted in that world, right? Whereas if you're like in the parenting market or if you're in a consumer market, you might be selling at a little bit lower price point, like
Mm.
let's say the 197, 297, you know, price point for more
But you might get a
consumer
lot more sales
focused
as well.
stores.
You might get many sales. Like if you're selling in this market, it's like usually have a
Right.
bigger audiences and things like that. So you
Consumer
can,
markets usually require more volume, yeah,
yeah, more
to hit
volume.
certain goals. Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. But let's dive in a little bit to kind of the
Sure.
world of AI, how you can do this. So start, I mean, you can share some of your screen to kind of demonstrate the
Yeah,
process to create like this
sure.
AI powered webinar to do it a little bit faster than it normally would.
Well, let me go ahead and try to pull up my screen here. Let me see if I can grab the right one. Okay, can you see that okay, Navid?
Yep, it's coming.
Should see
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Webinar
perfect.
Launchpad 2.0,
It's perfect.
right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to walk you through kind of a process, and you can stop me because I don't know how long we want to go here.
Yep.
But I want to just give people an idea of, again, three things. One is how to instruct the AI for when it comes to webinars, sales presentations, masterclasses, how to judge what it gives you, and then what to do with what it gives you, right? So let's go through some of that in some detail here. Again, the tool that I'm using is my own tool that we've sort of built. You can still use some of these prompts and instructions. It might take you a little bit longer, but you can still use some of these things in your Chat GPT Plus account,
Yep.
or
Or your
whatever tool
favorite
you're
AI
using,
tool. Yeah, I mean, it
your
works in
favorite AI
any
tool. But
exactly. But
I just
what
think
we
it'd
can
be
do,
helpful.
John, yeah, just a
Yeah.
quick that we can do like you show your tool and then you can actually show like some of the prompts behind it and things like that. So people can get an idea
Yeah.
what to add to another tool, you know?
Right. So I'm not trying to just tease my tool. I'm just going to show you like the framework of a webinar a bit and then some of the prompts, so if that makes sense. So let me go ahead and just jump in here and head on over to this tool here. So this is what I call, this is my Webinar Launchpad AI Builder, which is really a series of steps for prompting and creating the script, the language that you're going to use for your presentation in a specific order. So let me just go ahead and move forward. So again, I mentioned this earlier. You can do direct selling webinars or lead gen sales webinars. So lead gen is like, I'm going to book a call, that kind of thing. Whereas direct selling is I want to buy a course directly. So for the sake of brevity, let's go with lead gen webinar. And then you can always download a script here. I have a script that accompanies the AI tool directly. I just use Google Slides for all of my presentations, which is a free tool that you can use for your webinar slide deck. So let's get into the actual pieces then. So let's say we're clear on our goal. We know what we want to sell. We know all those kind of things. Let's talk about how to create a headline for your webinar. These are one of the most important pieces to attract the right person to attend your webinar here. So I do have a prompt that I can walk you through. All you got to do is copy that. Let me just kind of grab one that I've already put together for time's sake here and come back over to the tool. And I'm just going to plug this in right here. And then let me just read this to your audience. So again, you can plug something like this prompt into your AI tool of choice. I'm using my tool here. So you could tell the AI basically, I'm hosting a webinar. Let's use an example. Let's say you're a B2B consult, you're a LinkedIn trainer. You could be anything, but let's say you're a LinkedIn trainer and you're hosting a webinar for B2B consultants who want to get more clients on LinkedIn. You could ask the AI, give me 10 variations of high converting webinar headlines using this format, how to do benefit without pain point. That's a very common, trusted conversion metric or conversion framework. Make it concise and attention grabbing, include a benefit or call to action, use steps, pains, timelines when applicable. And then I've given it a couple of examples as well. Like this is called few shot prompting. So there's zero shot prompting where you give no examples during your prompt. And then there's few shot prompting, which is basically a fancy whatever word for I'm giving the AI examples of how I want this to look, right? And then all you got to do is hit your favorite AI tools button down here, and it'll take just a few seconds to render. I think it usually takes under 15 seconds or so for my tool to render those headlines. But I just wanted to give you some context as to like, what is happening as far as like the framework, the prompt, and how you can instruct it. Giving the AI some examples of how you want it to look can be really powerful. So again, you're a LinkedIn trainer. It could be how to attract high-paying clients with LinkedIn without spending hours on content creation. Discover how to triple your client base using LinkedIn without cold messaging or spamming. I mean, these are pretty good. And I know from experience that many of you, I love all of you on here, but most of you are pretty terrible at coming up with headlines for
It's difficult,
presentations.
John. Like, I mean, I have seen a lot of webinars. So I mean, even then, can sometimes be difficult when you have a lot of different ideas. But I think it's great to use something like that. That's one of my biggest use cases with AI, to come up with idea generation, basically to see different versions of subject lines or webinar titles or
Right.
blog titles. I think it's the best, one of the best use cases for sure.
So AI is really good at helping you come up with headlines. In fact, if you're listening to this, make sure you have an AI tool every time you're creating headlines, because it's going to just help you. Like I'm never creating headlines now without AI, at least helping me come up with languaging ideas, right? It's just that helpful when it comes to it. And then I'll often tweak it or make some final changes, but it helps me come up with so many more ideas there. So, all right. So let's say you like this one, right? So discover how to triple your client base using LinkedIn without cold calling or spamming. You could always reprompt it. You can say, give me 10 variations of number 2. You can add other elements to the prompt. And then really all you got to do once you're done there is literally just kind of come over here and just kind of plug in the headline to your slide deck, and you're ready to go, right? So that's kind of like how I have it. I have a slide deck that mirrors this content writing framework, kind of one-to-one, and then people just kind of go back and forth between the tool, plugging it into the slide deck. So anyway, that's headlines. Any questions on that or thoughts, Navid? Otherwise, I can go to another part.
So we assume people are 100% clear on the topic of the webinar when they're getting into this, right? So they should have at least some idea. If you start with that in mind, you should think about the topic beforehand. So you can maybe you have different ideas for your audience. So maybe you have a broad audience. How do you usually come up? Okay, this is the best thing to do. Maybe it's the first offer they will create for their audience. What do you have any beginners sometimes you work with? What do you advise them sometimes, usually, John?
Yeah, most of the people who take this, they at least know who they're selling to and what they're what the problem is. If you don't, you can use AI to come up with ideas.
Yeah.
So like, for example, I don't have a thing in my tool for that, but let's just say, and this is OpenAI's playground, if that's okay if I share, Navid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could always just say like, give, you can frame it like, over here, like a good way to, when you're prompting, it's not a bad idea to give the AI a role. It's called giving the AI a role. So like you could say, you are a copy writer helping me come up with ideas to sell a program. Let's just say, I mean, that's maybe could be better. Give me some ideas I could sell if I'm I mean, you should kind of know what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
To sell, let's say to help, I don't know, busy moms.
I was gonna just say that.
Get
I don't know
their
why the busy
kids
mom example is so popular.
I know, right? I use it all the time. Get their
Yeah.
kids to stop yelling and start listening, right? So like, let's say you're a child psychologist. You're like, I don't know what to sell exactly, right? Like you can go over it and use AI to give you some ideas,
John, I also use it a lot for product names and things like that. If I wanna,
yes,
I'm just trying to brainstorm basically what is the best name for, because we are just launching, like at the
totally.
time we are recording this, we're launching a bunch of offers. So we are trying to come up with names. That's what AI is really good at as well.
Right. Yeah. It's really good at coming up with names, coming up with ideas. It's going to help you ideate, like to come up with things. So,
Yeah.
you get some ideas here and you can always re-instruct it, but basic frameworks like this, can help you come up with kind of ideas if you're at that stage of like, what am I going to sell
Yeah.
and those kind of things.
Taglines as well. I think like taglines and things like that. You can get,
headlines.
even if you don't use the specific, maybe you don't like exactly that, but maybe there's some other ones. You can mash words together and things like that. I think that is also really helpful, because sometimes
Yeah.
AI doesn't know where to put everything the way you want
Right.
it, but you can like take words. Oh, I
Right.
didn't know this, and then you have the perfect course name or title or whatever that might be. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's continue
So,
with
I mean, we
this.
could use
Good.
AI to create bullet points too, Naveed. That's
Mm,
another good use of it, like bullet
yep,
points for your webinars, your marketing
exactly.
campaigns. It's really
Yeah,
good
for
at
your
that.
landing page, like where you, I mean, you're gonna have them. I don't know if where you're gonna sign up, right? You're gonna sign up for like a landing page, right? So that's also like
Right.
headline. There's bullet points, probably what's included in the webinar, what you're gonna cover. So yeah, it can be
Right.
very useful for these things for sure.
Right. So headlines, bullet points certainly are great for webinars. I call it so like, let's talk a little bit about like creating an opening for your webinar, right? Like the
Yep.
first few minutes of like hooking people in, getting them intrigued, getting them excited. I've already, put together a prompt here. So let me just kind of share an example here. Um, and so you could say something like, write me an intriguing, hope-filled webinar opening, sharing it across 5 slides. So let me show you how I've gotten it to actually assign the scripts to slide numbers as well.
Oh, that's
And all
awesome.
you got to
Yeah.
do is give it your name, your webinar headline, and then the bullet points you generate on the other end. So I'll just go ahead and hit this. So write me an intriguing, hope-filled opening across 5 slides using the information below. Have it be natural, casual, using my name. Make sure that the headline's on slide 1 for slides 2 to 3. Write the script in a conversational tone with the
Do
bullet
you script your
points.
entire webinars, John, or do you learn this? Or
Yeah.
what is it? Because I guess you put yourself on. Do you put yourself on video as well when you're doing webinars these days, so they can see your face, or do you only have the slides?
No, well, I come on and off, so you can see that it
Okay.
wrote that entire first 5 slides script there,
Mm, that's awesome.
using that information. Yeah, so I script the entire presentation. I do. I don't read it word for word, but
Mhm.
I script it because I want to be strategic in the type of content I share. This is
Yeah.
again for a sales webinar, so I
Yep.
do script it. I have a lot of slides, so I have usually 200 plus slides for a 45-minute to 60-minute webinar, you know?
But you're
And
going
I
really
put
quick through them. Like
going really
you saw
quick.
here, you see here on the screen if you're watching, you see like these are really short, right? So you're going through
Right,
like a bunch of slides really quickly here.
right. Yep, you want it to be quick. You want to keep the slides moving, attention, changing slides, movement keeps people's attention more, so they're not looking
Mhm.
away or dabbling because they might miss something. So a lot more slides is better than less slides. And you want to keep it fairly short. Like if you have 3 points you want to make on one slide, make those into 3 slides. So yeah, that's how you can kind of put together a slide or webinar opening, right? Like an intriguing opening. We want to hook people in, right? So you can use these prompts again in any AI tool. This one runs on GPT-4 as of this recording. You know, it's how you frame it that makes a big difference. And you need to give it some relevant information. That's why I created these AI frameworks, because it not only gives you the prompt, but it tells you like kind of what to do to customize it and like what to do once you get it and all that kind of stuff. But this is pretty good, actually. I mean, this was a script that I used for a recent sales webinar, and it worked really well. I just gave it a few
Yeah.
bullet points, and that's all it did, and then it wrote the script for me. So I
But
mean,
is
that's
there
pretty
anything else we
pretty
need to,
powerful.
because you have probably some things behind the scenes here. Is there something if people want to try this first in another tool, what they need to think about together? Because you have probably told it to write in this way. So actually it's in your framework for webinars, right? So you have a specific
Right,
framework, you have your slides, and
right,
you know exactly
right,
what goes into it. ChatGPT will probably struggle because there's a lot of information when it comes to creating webinars. So you need to actually, as you said, prompt it the right way so it gives us the information we want for it. And I guess your tool is built so like behind the scenes you have some things happening, so it's actually giving us better output. So I mean, I can just imagine this is how it's
right.
running.
Yeah, I mean, it runs on GPT-4, but
Yeah,
it's really like using these prompts in a specific way that's already been assimilated to a framework that I have in my program, right?
it's kind of
To
chaining them together, right? It's kind of like
right,
this, right? Yeah.
exactly. Yep. And so once we have that, then like we can create a discovery story. One of the things in a webinar that it's good is to give people context
Hmm.
around like you know, why you're there today, basically, right? So good presentations always have like a kind of they're pretty heavy on context. And
Yeah.
so basically I have a prompt here. I'll just walk people through it and give people an example here. So like, let's say you wanted to create your own discovery story for your webinar. You could literally just fill in the bullet points here, copy a prompt, and then just kind of paste it in here. So like for you, if you're in any other tool, you could say, you could just, again, give the AI a role. Like you're a copywriting expert who is helping me craft a story for my webinar using the information below. Like that's always a good technique. Whatever tech tool you're using is to give the AI a role. And then in here, I'm
Yeah.
saying, write me a 300-word compelling discovery story that involves the following items. So you can literally just kind of format your discovery story in a bulleted list for it. So it customizes it to you. Make sure to use these bullet points in order, step by step. That's actually really important. If you're struggling to get any AI output to give you things in an order that makes sense, you want to use that phrase. Make sure to use these step or, in an order, or think step by step is a good prompt to have, a good piece to have in your prompts, so that it's more logical in sequence. And so if I hit a button down there, again, I've already programmed this so that it puts it into slide numbers for me. You obviously wouldn't do that. But I just wanted to like kind of give you some context here as to like what you can do, with this sort of a prompt. So if you were to just
Yeah.
open up your AI tool, say, hey, you're a copywriter helping me, blah, 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 write me a 300-word, discovery story using the bullets below. The bullet format I like to use is like what you were doing before you made your discovery or had your aha, describing the moment of aha or discovery, and then what you did afterwards. That's sort of like a basic flow. So
All right. And usually the discovery story is like when you talk about yourself, but it's not like too long, like drawn out. It should be pretty quick, right? Going through, you said
should be
like
pretty
300.
quick.
Yeah, should like 300 words roughly, or that's all you do
It
these
could be a
days?
little, yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be 300 words, but it's short and to the point, and keep it just like, it answers the question, like, why are we here today?
Mm.
You know,
Yep.
like, why am I teaching what I'm sharing today? Like for me, it's like, for example, I used AI to create my AI webinar. So it's like, hey, I'm a webinar expert. I had the privilege of working with all these clients. One day while I was listening to the All In podcast, I discovered on this discussion called this tool called ChatGPT. Without a second thought, I signed up for the ChatGPT account and started looking and seeing if I could get it to work for me. After my initial excitement was dampened. I mean, you heard me talk about this a little bit at the start of
Yeah.
this talk, and
Mm.
I've actually used this, and my students are using this to write scripts for their discovery stories. And so again, you can use AI to write these sort of things for you. You need to give it a little bit of, that's why you need to know like how to prompt it and how to judge what it gives you. Like you
Yeah.
can't just say, hey, ChatGPT, write a story about how I discovered
Mhm.
AI again.
You
And
can,
it would
in
give you a
just a
very
tip on this.
generic
Yeah,
response.
John, just a tip on this. If you are using ChatGPT, you can actually use the custom instructions and add a little bit more context about yourself. So,
Yes.
like, kind of what you
Yep.
do and like kind of how you would like ChatGPT to respond to certain things. Maybe
Right.
you write in a specific tone. Maybe you want to have a friendly tone, like
Right.
engaging or, funny or
Yep.
whatever you want. And then you can also add a few things about yourself. So you tell
Yep.
ChatGPT to, put references. So maybe depending on what you do, right? So you can add some stuff so you save a
Yeah.
lot of time in the prompting when you're actually writing these prompts in there. But I'm
Right.
just curious, John, what else goes in? We have like the story. What is the teaching bit? I think is what a lot of people struggle with to
Yeah.
put together this part. So maybe you can
Right.
talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we've got the headline, we've got the intrigue opener, we've got the discovery story, we've built up the big idea that you're trying to
Mhm.
share on a webinar. All good sales presentations are built around a new opportunity, right? Like, so we need to
Mhm.
build up, like, most people just make the mistake of like hitting people in the face with a lot of how-to stuff. I know this that we're on right now is not a sales thing. It's more of a how-to. But when it comes to persuading people and both delighting and persuading people in a webinar, all good presentations are built around a big idea. So for me, it was how I rediscovered AI and built this tool, right? So like for you, you need to figure out, like, one of the things I help my students with is like, what's the new opportunity angle that we're going to help you share? And then once we've shared that, it's like, okay, well, how does that work? Or what does that look like? And so
Mhm.
that's when I call this a roadmap to results, is kind of like how I present my content. You asked about the content section here.
Yeah.
So I put together a little tool. It's basically a visual walkthrough of kind of like how you get your clients results
Okay.
with that new opportunity you just
Let's talk a
shared.
little bit about the new opportunity. I think this is, I mean, of course, I've heard about it before, and I mean, every time you're putting together something is kind of a new opportunity. You need to frame it in that way, at least, to people,
Right.
because let's say you were talking about this, just I have a webinar course, or webinar presentation. Maybe some people would tune out because there's been a lot of them. Maybe they are interested because you're an expert on this or whatever. But if you have, a way to frame it that this is the new way with like AI and actually bringing this
Right.
into this. If I would talk about summits today, for example, I would for sure bring in like AI powered summits. I would do something
Yeah.
similar for summits, because that makes a whole. Maybe we are using it to put together
Yep.
events like AI for Creators Summit and things like that for a lot of the things that goes into it. Similar to what you are doing with webinars, we have basically our workflow is just so much faster with AI. So that would be the new opportunity when it comes to virtual
Right.
summits too. So that's how I would think about it. But maybe some tips around this if people are struggling with coming up with something for their market. Well, what do you advise your students and clients?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a deeper strategic question than I can continue on here, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's so like let's say, I mean, some markets it's easy, like for you and I, like summits, like how to AI powered summits, right, or AI powered webinars. That's obviously a new opportunity that sells really well because it aligns with a trend. So overall advice would be to try to find a technique or a new results or something in your industry. You can go to Google to do this. You can look at Google Trends. You can look at like different places, research. Hopefully, if you're an expert and you have expertise in what you're teaching and selling, hopefully you know some of this already. Like, what are some new opportunities or new trends or new this or that in your market that you could align your offer with? That's a good way to go. So, for example, like in the healthcare space, it might be like I had a client that had this, they discovered this root, this supplement that helped people lose weight more effectively without excessive exercising and stuff like that, right? Like that could be positioned as a new opportunity. Or if you're a life
Mhm.
coach, maybe, or someone who's in the softer skills, the new opportunity might be, a process that you discovered. Like, let's say you're that busy, you're a child psychologist. Maybe it's you know, a framework or a script that helps, stop your kids from yelling and get them to start listening to you in as little as like 5 minutes, or I mean, like something like that. Like you want to look for like, sometimes it's an actual discovery. Sometimes it's almost a creation of the new opportunity by naming and framing your process for getting results, right? Like, so if you're a life coach and you're helping people, let's say, discover their soul's purpose or whatever that is, what about how you do that is unique? It's different. What about that could be framed in a way that's positioned as a new opportunity? So it's often a discovery. It can often be a marketing invention in some cases, depending on what you sell. So again, like once we have that new opportunity sort of dialed in, the next question, we want to build that up and show people that on the webinar. The next thing is to really, the next question in their minds is, okay, well, how does this work? Right. And so we want to create what I call a roadmap to results. Or another way to put this is like all good presentations have a wow demonstration. So we want to show them what the steps are or the process is, but we want to do it in a way that sort of like wows them a bit. Right. And so when I say a roadmap to results, it's usually like a 3-part, 3-phase, 3-step process represented as a visual that sort of walks people through in their minds what this looks like. It gets them to say to themselves, like, I can see how this can help me. I can see this. I get this. Wow, I want this. And I can see how this can help me. That's kind of what you're going for there. And so, when it comes to AI, I mean, one of the things that it's really good at is naming things, right? Like naming processes. And so your roadmap, if you're an expert at what you do, you should have a framework. You should have a framework that's uniquely yours, that has a name to it, that has a series of steps that you can easily walk potential buyers through so they understand how you help people, right? So naming your roadmap steps is one of the things you can do in this tool. All you got to do again for me is just copy this, plug it into the field here and make some adjustments. So, a prompt you could use to help you come up with naming ideas for your framework. Could you be saying like, I'm hosting a webinar called X, helping ideal buyer do X thing. What are 3 steps I could share with them in my webinar to help them achieve their goal? Think of this step by step. That's another important prompt or part of the prompt, and include the names of each step. Give me a few sets of steps to choose from, right? So you can actually have it like create like naming ideas for your own frameworks, your own roadmap during your webinar. Like step 1 is this, step 2 is this, step 3 is this. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. AI is a really good tool for helping you kind of come up with those kind of steps in your roadmap. And those will be your basically ideas for your teaching points that you're walking people through. Again, this is a new opportunity. You've just exposed them to a new opportunity. Now we want to walk them through kind of like what that looks like at a high level. And the more we can wow them while we do that, the better. So like, for example, when I walk like through a framework on, let me just go back here, like how to create a Grand Slam webinar offer, how to create a better offer. I actually, when I'm using AI, I'll actually like talk about what I mean by that. And then I'll actually screen share the AI tool actually doing that and then come back to the slides. And that sort of like little demo really wows people. It goes, wow, that's amazing. This tool can help me come up with bonus ideas literally in under 30 seconds, mind blown, right? So it's like, you
Mhm.
want to think about like, how can you wow people as you walk them through your demonstration? That could be screen sharing. That could be, telling an amazing story, could be sharing an insight that really blows their mind and turns on the light switch behind them and really gets them to kind of buy into that.
Mhm.
So
Lately, John, lately I've just I don't like slides as much anymore. Like for only slides, I kind of like more the actionable sharing and things like that, where it's more in the trenches actually showing. Because slides is
yeah,
more like, okay, give them this on a slide. It's not going to help them get it done or showcase how this works. Even in my training programs and stuff like that, I'm doing more like with screen sharing and like me on camera and things like that to just showcase what it is. Maybe I'm going into the tool I'm using or something like that, rather than just saying, "Hey, this is what I'm using." I'm showing how I'm using it, so that saves people a lot of time. I think that just makes it more actionable and people can follow along better. So I like this as
right.
well with demonstrations. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, if you have something visual to demonstrate, then do it. There's a saying in webinars, right? It's like, don't tell them, show them, right?
Hmm.
And it's
Yep.
like, if you can show them and strategically show them, it needs to be rehearsed. Otherwise it comes across clumsy. Like
Yeah.
my actual sales webinars are much more like, they're much more organized than our call here today,
Yeah.
on like actually showing and demonstrating just enough of the right pieces that really tickle people, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so it needs to be rehearsed. But if you have something, maybe you're a web designer, maybe you're a LinkedIn guy with the sales navigator dialed in, or maybe you're like me, I have a little tool that I can show people right in front of their eyes how they can create these things in seconds. That's going to wow people, right? So if you do have something visual, show it. Um,
Well,
that's just,
I think
a good
like
way to
in
do
an
it.
AI world, I mean, even like industries you might not think of, like, of course, it makes sense for you to have an AI tool, but in the future, like any market could have, if you're a health coach, why not dive into a little bit the world of AI and build something pretty
Yeah.
simple for come up with a diet plan or whatever that might be, or like some kind of recipes, or it can be anything like that,
Right.
workout plan. AI is really good at that. Maybe you have a framework for something like that. So you can actually demonstrate this then on your webinar to sell kind of your solution. I
Right.
think that will be a lot more efficient. So
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
you wow people with visuals, you wow people with demonstrations, you wow people with stories or insights. Usually
yeah,
that's not everybody has an AI tool. I get it listening to this. You're like, well, that's
yeah,
great for you guys. You guys are doing, marketing, right? But like you can still wow people. Like I work with life coaches, I work with people like in a variety of spaces. And it's like, okay, what is the ingredient that's going to wow people? And then how can we demonstrate that in a series of clear steps? We've talked about like naming your roadmap steps. Then I'll usually describe what those steps are. You can use AI for that as well. I'm not going to just do every prompt here. Why each step is important. So like as you're teaching your demonstration or your roadmap, you want to share like what that step is, why it's important, what's involved, and that can be a visual demonstration, that could be an insight, it could be a series of elements, and then like how it looks at a high level, right? Those are kind of the big things. So we want to say, why is it important? You can have AI, give me ideas for why each of these steps is important. You can use AI to come up with ideas there. Um, you can come up with like objections, insights, false beliefs around that step, right? Like that's often, a good thing to come up
so
with.
the teaching, John, the teaching bit is usually like, how long do you do it? Like 40 minutes, 30 minutes? What do you do these days?
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually like first for a live webinar, like a live one, 45 minutes to 50
Yeah.
minutes. And then I'll make an offer for usually 15 minutes or
Okay.
so. And then
Yeah.
I'll stay on for a long time with Q&A. So like I'll stay on another hour if I have a
Would you
big
say
webinar.
for live versus evergreen, it's like similar way you do it, or do you tweak things for the evergreen version, or do you keep it pretty similar?
Now it's shorter, more direct for an evergreen. Um,
Yeah, I've
that
seen that
tends to
for
work.
some people. I've seen like some people, like for example, they don't even use some. I know you are a big fan. I think you're using eWebinar, right? That's the tool you're using
Uh,
for.
that's the tool I'm currently using for Evergreen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen some
hmm
people just have like an opt-in and they're crushing it. They just have an opt-in and just do a video
hmm
and they're like, it works for them. Like it's I mean,
Yep.
it's pretty good. Like, and they have like a very direct, as you said, it's the same strategy. They have a very direct webinar to just teaching, like sharing some new opportunity basically, and then getting into it. It's very very like straightforward. So if people are like more warm and they want to buy quickly, they have the opportunity to buy from them essentially. So yeah,
It depends on the market, and like obviously lead gen webinars can be more direct and short. Like
hmm
I worked with a couple clients that have made millions of dollars using just super direct, like financial, service companies,
hmm
commercial real estate, private equity groups. I mean, like we're doing 20-minute webinars that are direct as hell, and they
yeah,
crush it. Like they make a lot of money. So it just really
yeah,
depends on the
yeah,
market, a little bit. So
awesome, yeah.
and
So
and then we sort of wrap things up with a call to action.
yeah,
So
see.
I don't know if what else, if there's anything
Yeah,
else you'd like me
I
to
think we
discover.
covered like what's important with the teaching bit, like to share some of like basically something that can get people results, like some demo is important. But I think
Right.
then how do you transition smoothly to the pitch and what goes in when it comes to AI? I mean, I guess you can come up with a whole offer, different things you bundle in there to make this I think you call it a slam, what do you call it, a slam dunk webinar, grand
Grand
slam
slam offer.
webinar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Grand Slam offer.
Um,
That's what you call it.
yeah. 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 So it depends again on what you're doing. So we talked about like the call to action. And again, there's direct selling and then there's lead generation style presentations. And again, let's just use the lead generation example here. Let's say your goal is to book a call for you or your team and for your coaching program or your service or whatever that might be. I call this the sales call structure, AI powered framework. And again, there's a prompt you can use. I'll just kind of show you an example here. Let's say you're hosting a webinar about, how to get clients on LinkedIn. Let's say for this, is just an example. This could be for anything. And you want to give it, and so you say, my goal is to get people to book a call with me. Help me come up with 10 names I might use to make my call more enticing. And I give it a couple of examples here. Again, this is few shot prompting. So we just click a button and in a few seconds, the AI tool is going to give us some names that we could do for our LinkedIn call. Now, why name our call? Well, we want to position that conversation with you as a valuable service in and of itself. That's a big mistake a lot of people make. They just say, hey, if you like what you hear, book a call with me. We want to name the call. We want to put a dollar value to the call. And then we want to have like either literal or perceived bonuses that go around that call. So like, LinkedIn lead generation audits, client acquisition strategy session, like those sound better than hey, let's book a strategy session call
Mhm.
or something like that, right? Like we want to name our call. We want to basically position our call as a valuable service in and of itself, right? That's
I
the
think
big idea
I
around.
should have done this before as well. I have done some webinars where I had coaching as the main offer afterwards, like as a coaching program, and I had like I just called it like a breakthrough strategy call, which isn't that
Right.
effective. I should have probably called it like the virtual summit audit or something like this. You're having some good examples there that is much better. Like I should have called it something more enticing, as you said, because that's still an
Right.
offer. That's your offer on the webinars. Even if you have just a free strategy call, you should call it
Right.
something and offer something in return for signing up. You're just gonna have a better conversion rate. So I do like that a lot. I think that and a lot of people I haven't seen they actually using like kind of a great positioning or names behind it. So I think this is good.
Yeah, I mean, it's all, kind of coming up with a good name. So like, the virtual summit growth assessment or growth
Yeah.
audit, something like that. And then you would put a value to it and you would position it as a valuable service. So like, you're
Mhm.
assessing, their summit idea. So one of your bonuses. So like, for example, you could say like, in addition to the name, like what are some ideas for report assessment or an audit that you could offer as part of that call? Like, let's say
Yeah.
you chose the LinkedIn lead generation audit. Like, there's some, what you could do is say, hey, if you like what you hear, your first step is to book a LinkedIn lead generation audit. That's a $500 value, but I'm offering this as a complimentary service or a complimentary, conversation with you. Why am I doing that? Because I know some of you may end up wanting to work with me. In addition to doing the LinkedIn lead generation audit, we're also going to do a LinkedIn profile performance report that's going to help you identify where in your profile needs to be optimized. We're going to do an in-depth lead generation analysis of your current LinkedIn strategies and what you could be doing to improve there. And we're also going to help you come up with a LinkedIn content engagement report so that we can, analyze kind of what's currently working or not working for you. Now, I mean,
Yeah.
that's going to be a much more enticing call that people are going to want to take because it's positioned as a valuable service instead of just a call. And what it also does is it digs up problems for you to say, hey, we found your profile could use this. We found out that, your lead generation is could be doing this. Here's your problems. Do you want to work with us to help you solve those problems? Right. And it's like I did this
Yeah.
with an SEO agency once. Like they gave them like a website report of like competitor keyword analysis, like those kind of things on the call. And then they dug up all the problems. You can say, hey, you can see all the opportunities and problems you have here. If you'd like our help fixing this, let's talk, let's work together, And so it just sort of lends itself very easily to working together.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this is awesome because I think usually these things took a long time. Like now you can get them instantly instead of like using a lot of brain power, a lot of like research. You can actually get all these ideas with the help of AI as an assistant. So yeah, this
Right.
is this is pretty awesome to do this. I mean, I probably you wouldn't have come up with all these ideas if it wasn't for just
Oh, no.
prompting this like an answering a few questions. I mean, we did it like in a
Right.
less than an hour basically. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, you could go through this in about, an hour, like you say. Now that I know how to use the tool, your first time through, you might be a little slower, but and you can use any AI tool for this. Some are better than
yeah,
others, but it's really like you got to know what the structure of a good webinar looks like, and then how
yeah,
to prompt it, and then what to do with what it gives you, right? And so that's what I've
exactly.
done with this. But you can certainly use a
Yeah.
lot of these prompting ideas in any tool to come up with ideas for sure.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, we can have like two more questions, so we can stop sharing the screen,
all
I
right,
think.
cool. I'll come off the
But
screen
yeah,
then.
as we wrapping this up, I just wanted to hear your number one piece of advice for someone like a creator, entrepreneur who would like to dive into the world of AI. What do you and maybe hosting webinars as well? But what do you what's your advice to them if they're gonna get started with AI and get into this?
Yeah, I mean, just get the simple tools, right? I mean, you can start with like a Chat GPT. I mean, I would probably upgrade to the plus version or whatever that is for $20 a month, right? Like you've talked about how you can make it around your personality a little bit more. There's in the settings area, I think there's a place to do that. Um, yeah, and then just kind of find some people who are doing AI stuff, like because you'll need to know again, like as of right now, like how to prompt it, how to instruct it, that kind of thing. But you'll still need to learn like how to build the structure of the thing. I mean, there's a few tools coming out, I'm sure in the future where you give it one prompt and it auto prompts itself forever to come up with a product. That will
Yeah,
probably be coming. That's already coming out in some cases.
yeah,
But you still again need to know like how to prompt it. So get some simple tools, start playing with it, and then learn how to prompt it. Learn what you're trying to put together. If it's a webinar, you still need to know how to structure it and like, those kind of things. So yeah,
yeah.
I mean, you
No,
just got
that's
to get
great,
started, but you still
and
need to learn like how to put the thing together.
for sure. No, that's always like that. You're gonna learn like this. Like if you're using ChatGPT or any AI tool for copy, you need to still know what the good copy looks like. Same, you need to
Yeah,
know what a good webinar might look like. If you don't know, you have no idea. Same with a blog post, anything that comes out
right.
from the AI tool you're using. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
why you need to study and learn from this. But the final
It,
question is, was there any question that you wanted me to ask but I didn't ask it, or do you have any final words of wisdom for everyone watching this?
I think we covered it pretty well. Hopefully what I shared made sense. I know this wasn't like a formal presentation where things are a little more streamlined, but hopefully I was able to deliver some good ideas, not just show my tool, but like how to prompt and some ideas around prompting, kind of some of the main elements that make up a good sales presentation and those kind of things. So I think we covered quite a bit, both the strategy and structure and also some prompting ideas. So I think we're good as far as that goes. If you have any other
No,
questions,
that's
feel free, but I think we
That's
covered
awesome. And
quite a
yeah, if
bit.
you want to check you out, John, your website, johnschumacher.com, right? So that's
Yep,
where you have everything. I'll link
that's
it up
right.
as well. If you have any takeaways, you're watching this or listening in, leave them below. And if you want, maybe we didn't cover something in detail, or maybe you have some takeaways, let us know so we can maybe answer it, and also we can possibly do other sessions in the future as well. And be sure to subscribe to the channel for more. Like the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao for now. Bye.